Assalamualaikum and good day to all students and viewers. I'm Norhazlin. Jusoh will explain to you for the chapter 7 of the Bio 122 course, which subtopic 7.1 animal tissues. So these are the learning outcomes for these subtopics. You have to know how to state and even define all the terminologies in the animal tissue. You have to know how to identify, or let's say you want to memorize, you need to know how to draw a label and describe some of the all the characteristics of all the animal tissue types. You have to know also the basic organization, and then you have to know also the importance or the function and all the various types of the animal tissues. So this is the introduction. We can see all the animals composed of the cells. Okay, if we look at on the what we have learned in the chapter 1 for the hierarchy biological organization, starting from the atom, molecules, cells, tissue, and all last become as the organism. So a group of cells with a common structures, then we will make up as the tissues, isn't it? Okay, make up as the tissues, and then different types of tissue will make up as the organs, and then different types of the organs but carry for the similar or the particular function, then become as the organ system and become as organism. So next we have to know to become as tissue. Okay, the animal cells must be united, and then it can be produced or develop the cell junction. Okay, the cell junction. So there are three types of the cell junction among the animal cells. The first we look at on the tight junction. Okay, tight junction. The tight junction is used to prevent the fluid from seeping between the epithelial cells. Okay, because it's just tight, so which means that it can mix the two cells or the two adjacent cells become very tight. Okay, and it will prevent the fluid from seeping from in between of the epithelial cell, for example. Okay, so this is the microscopic image for the tight junction, and then this is the illustration image of the tight junction. And then we go to the next type of the cell junction, which is the desmosome. Okay, for the desmosome, actually this is one of the type cell junction for the anchoring, junction, which means that for the holding or to as a holder. It used to fasten the cells in and become as a strong sheet, Okay, look at on the microscopic image here. Okay, you can see this is how the desmosome, and then you can see just like something coming protruding from the desmosome, isn't it? It's just like a thread like here. Actually, this is the intermediate filaments that anchor the desmosome. You look at on the illustration here, you can see clearly how the desmosome, okay, it looks like. And then next, the last is the gap junction. Okay, even the name is gap here, gap, which means that it consists the space, between. So if you look at on the microscopic image, you can see there is a gap in between of the two cells, and then it consisted just like a bridge, and this is what we call as channel. It consisted of channel. So which means that this junction it used to permit ions and also some of the molecules to pass from one cytoplasm of the cell to the next cytoplasm of the cells. Okay. So again, what is tissue? So tissue, of course, consisted with a group of closely associated with the similar cells and carry out with the specific function. For example, epithelium cells must become as the epithelium tissues, isn't it? A group of the epithelium cells become as epithelium tissue, that carry a specific function. For example, maybe as a protection, as or for the secretion. Okay, and then different types of the tissue, of course, it have a different structures, and also it can be have their particular function. Okay, for example, epithelium tissue and muscle tissue, of course, have a different structures, and of course have a different function. So there are 4 types of the animal tissues. Okay, the first is the epithelium tissues. Okay, connective tissues, muscle tissues, and the nervous tissues. So if you look all these 4 types of the animal tissue, of course the cell must be different, and then the function also must be different. Okay, we will look in detail for each type of the tissue. Okay, next we go to the general function for each of the tissue. Okay, first look at on the epithelium tissue. Okay, the epithelium tissue is used to cover the outside of the body. Okay, like say as in our skin, and then lines the organs and also the cavity within the body. And then for the connective tissue, mainly used to bind and support. Okay, because it just connect. The words connective here. Of course, it just can be as a function as the supportive to other tissues. And then next is the muscle tissue. Muscle composed of the long cells that capable of the contracting. Okay, and then the last is the nerve tissue. The nerve tissue is used to for the senses, the stimuli, and also transmit the signals of the impulse or the information throughout of the animal. Okay, first we look at in detail for the epithelial tissue. Okay, for the epithelial tissue, we can see it's of course a sheet of cells because it must be composed of the epithelium cells that cover the body's outer surface. The words cover here. Okay, and then lines the internal ducts and also some of the cavities. Okay, cavities also it also can be also for the internal organ. Okay, and then the main role, the keyword for the main role is for the interfaces and as a boundaries. Okay, the roles, and then the functions. Okay, there are a lot of functions for the epithelial tissue. It can be as a protection, it can be as an absorption, it can be as a sensory reception, it can be secretion, filtration, as ion transport, and also it can be as a formation of the slippery surface for the movement. Okay, on the epithelial tissue structure, it also consisted with the basement membrane. Okay, if you look at here, okay, let's say this is one cell of the epithelium, and then one cell of the epithelium, and then another cell of the epithelium. Okay, at the bottom, we can see around here, this is the basement. This is the basement membrane. Okay, on the top surface, we can see as an apical surface. Apical surface. Okay, same goes for the many layers of the epithelium tissue. Okay, around here, this is the apical surface, and then at the bottom, it consisted with the basement membrane. So what is the function of the basement membrane? Okay, of course, it uses or secreted extracellular matrix that attach the epithelium to the underlying tissue. Okay, it can be also as to renew the epithelium cells. Okay, which means that around the basement membrane consisted with actively dividing cells by the mitosis, of course. And then some of the epithelial tissue also consisted with the microvilli. Okay, or we can say a cilia or villus. For example, in our digestive system or digestive tract, it consisted with a lot of the microvilli, isn't it? So what does it mean, the microvilli? It's a finger-like projection. How it going to be projection? projected is coming around the apical surface. Okay, it could be maybe just like this. Okay, mostly for the absorptive epithelium, which means that mainly for the function for the absorption. Okay, so this is what I already mentioned. This is the general structure of the simple epithelium. Of course, on the top here, this is the apical surface, and then this is the basement membrane. Okay, and then under the basement membrane consisted with the connective tissue. Only around here, this is the epithelium tissue. So now how we can describe the epithelial tissues? It can be described based on the two classification. Okay, the first is based on the thickness, and then second based on the cell shape. Okay, I think you have known already. Thickness maybe it can be depends on the layer. Okay, based on the layer. So there are two types of the epithelium based on the thickness or layer. Okay, simple and the stratified. Simple epithelium, which it means that it consisted with the one cell thickness only. Only one cell. And then for the stratified, it consisted with the more than one cell thickness. At least two cell thickness or two layer of the cells. Okay, it will become as stratified already. Okay, next is for the number 2, for the cell shape. Okay, the shape, of course, which means that from the morphology, isn't it? So, from the physical appearance or feature. So, from here, it can be have 3 types. Squamous. How the squamous? It's just like a flattened shape, and we can say wider than tall. Okay, look at here. This is the simple squamous. Wider, it's quite wide, and then it's not tall. Okay, next for the cuboidal, the word is cuboid. Cuboid, which means that in a cube shape. I think we have known already how the cube shape. Okay, it consisted with the same size here, and then so that's why it can say as tall as wide. You look at here, this is how the cuboid, and then next is a columnar. Column is in a column shape, and then taller than wide. Okay, this is look at how the columnar is quite have elongated shape. Elongated shape. And then for the epithelial types, we can based on the cell layers. Okay, cell layers and also the shape of the cells. For the cell layers can be simple or stratified. Stratified, which means that have more than one cell thickness. And then it also consisted with the special layers. We can say as a pseudo stratified. Okay, this one actually it just consisted in one layer only, but the height of the cells is quite different among each other. And then next is for the shape. Squamous, it just can like a floor tiles, and then we can for the cuboidal like a dice, and then columnar, it just like a brick. Okay, this is just to show how the summary, the differences, all the epithelium types. You can see how the squamous, simple squamous, and then also the stratified squamous. Okay, the stratified is just the different of the layers, and then this is for the cuboidal, and then this is for the stratified cuboidal, and then for the columnar. For the simple columnar, it just consisted with one layer of the columnar cells, and then it consisted with the cilia or the villus, and then next also for the stratified columnar, of course it consisted of more than one layer, and then for the pseudo stratified, we can say it just consisted with the one layer, and then have a different height of the cells. So now we look at, okay, for the simple squamous epithelium, we look at on the description here. Of course, we can say as a single layer of the flattened cells. You can look at on this diagram, a flattened cell, only one cell only, and then have a disc shape. It's quite flattened also, the shape of the nuclei. And then look at on the function here, to allow the passage of the materials for the diffusion, and also can be for the filtration, and then also can for the secretion, to secrete the lubricating substance in the serosel. Look at on the microscopic image here, you can see, okay, this is all this line here, the purple color here. Okay, this is the simple squamous epithelium. Okay, the dark color here is just like the blue black color here. This is the nuclei, all the nucleus here. Okay, so the location, it can be found in the kidney glomeruli, and also the corpuscle. Of course, it can be as the filtration. And then it can be around the lungs. Of course, it can be as the diffusion. And then as a lining of the heart, this is what we can say, to secrete the substance in the serosate around the linings of the heart. And then next we go to the simple cuboidal epithelium. We can describe the cell, of course, just one cell, and then in a cuboidal shape, and then actually the nuclei is quite spherical. Okay, spherical. Okay, the function for the secretion and also for the absorption, because the function for the secretion absorption, we can found, or it can be found in the kidney tubules. Actually, the kidney tubule, we can say around the nephron. So the nephron tubule, of course, the function for the secretion, which means that from the blood to the nephron tubule, and then absorption from the nephron tubule to the blood. And then also can be found at the small glands and also at the ovary surface. Okay, this is the two kidney here. So when we look at on the microscopic image, we can see here, okay, the oval shape, the shape here. Okay, this is actually represent one nephron tubule or the kidney tubule. Okay, you can see the dark purple color here. This is the nucleus. And then you can see, okay, the shape of the cells in a cuboidal shape, and then it just only one cell thickness. Okay, so this is the lumen or the nephron tubule. Okay, next we go to the simple columnar epithelium. How to describe? It just, of course, because it's simple, it just consisted with a single layer of the tall cells. Okay, it's quite tall, and then the nucleus is quite oval shape, and then it consisted with the cilia, and then some of the cells, it consisted with the unicellular gland, which is what we call as the goblet, and the goblet cells, the secreting epithelial cells. So the function for the absorption, okay, for the secretion of the mucus, because it will involve the goblet cells here, and then it can be also secretion of the enzymes and also the other substance, and also for the propels of the mucus. So the location, it can be found because it will involve lots of mucus or secretions, fluids, isn't it? So which means that most can be found actually at the digestive tract. Okay, starting from the stomach to the anal canal. So it can be found at the gallbladder, okay, and can some of the glands, it also can be at the bronchi, and also some of the region around the uterus, okay, uterus, sorry. Okay, look at on this microscopic image, you can see clearly, okay, the shape now, and then just only have one cell layer, so it's just a simple columnar epithelium cells. Okay, this is the nucleus of the columnar cells. Oh, sorry. And then also you can see we cannot see clearly. Maybe the cilia. Okay, and then next we go to the pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Okay, the name of pseudo here, pseudo, which means that fake, isn't it? Fake, fake. So it just fake stratified. Actually, it's not a stratified. Okay, it just looks like stratified. Actually, it just only have one layer. Okay, with the columnar epithelium. Okay, so and then also consisted with the goblet cells and also with the cilia. You can see a bit lots of the cilia. Okay. What is the difference between the simple columnar epithelium? You can see each of the columnar cells have a different height. Okay, different height of the cells. Different height of the cells. Some of the cells is just up to here. Okay, and then some of the cells it can be along the way from here basal. Okay, sorry, from the basal to the apical surface, and then some of the cells it just not attached to the basal membrane. Okay, this is what we call as the pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium. So the function for the secretion, of course, it just seems like it's a simple columnar epithelium to secrete mucus because it's consisted with the goblet cell. And then the location, it can be found at the male sperm carrying ducts, which means at the vas deferens, okay, that coming from the testicle towards the around the seminal vesicles. Okay, and then it can be found also at the trachea. Okay, at the trachea. If you look at on the microscopic image here, okay, you can see this is the cilia. Okay, around here this is the cilia, and then it can be also have this is what we call as the goblet cells. Okay, actually the around here this is the substance or the mucus that already secreted from the goblet cells or from the one cell of the columnar epithelium. Okay, so if we can say this is the pseudo stratified. We can see as stratified. Actually, it's not stratified. It's just one layer. Okay, next we go to the stratified epithelium. First, we go to the stratified squamous. Okay, how to describe about the stratified squamous? It just consisted with the thick membrane that composed with the several cells layers. Okay, many cells layers. Okay, many cells layers, isn't it? Okay, and then all the cells in the squamous, and because it just all in a flattened shape, and also the disc and nuclei. Okay, and then the function it used to protect the underlying tissues that are subjected to the abrasion, which means that keyword here as a protection. Okay, so because it just used for the protection, so it can be found the most that we can relate is at the epidermis of the skin. Epidermis of the skin. We know already our cell consisted with the epidermis and also the dermis. The epidermis actually protruding to the outside of the skin, to our body. So that's why that this layer become as a protection. Okay, and as a protection, and also can be found lining on the esophagus, our mouth, vagina, okay, and also at the dry membrane. Okay, if you look at on the microscopic image here, of course you can see clearly this is the stratified squamous that as the protection, and then here around here this is the basal membrane. Upper side from the basement membrane, a lot of the active cells or active dividing squamous epithelium cells in order to replace the new cells and then the old cell. Next, we go to the stratified cuboidal epithelium. Okay, for the stratified cuboidal epithelium, we can describe just simply as the two layers. Okay, it's quite rare actually. It's quite rare, so it just consisted with only with the two layers. Okay, even the two layers is still classified as stratified, and then of course the shape in the cube like cells, and then the main function is for the protection. So it can be found at the sweat glands, okay, mammary glands, and also at the salivary glands. Even look at on the microscopic image here, we can see clearly. Actually, the dark color here, this represent the nucleus. Okay, we cannot see clearly how the shape, but this is already discovered as the stratified cuboidal epithelium. It just consisted with the two layers of the cells. And then next, we go to the stratified columnar epithelium. Okay, this one also is quite rare. How to describe? Consisted with the several layers. Okay, several layers. And then of course, it consisted with the elongated cells. Now this is what we call as cuboidal. Okay, as the columnar. Okay, columnar. Around here, this is the columnar. And then around the basal membrane, don't be confused. Okay, around here, the shape looks like cuboidal, but at the end it will become as the columnar shape. Okay, the function for the protection and plus as for the secretion. Okay, the location it can be found at the male urethra. Okay, the male urethra, and then also at the large ducts of the some glands. So look at here on the microscopic image. We from the size or shape of the nucleus also we can see the nucleus is quite elongated, so that's why this is what we call as a stratified columnar epithelium. Okay. Okay, next we go to the transitional epithelium. Okay, from the term itself, transitional, coming from the word of transition. So which means that when we talk about transition, which means that it's not permanent. Okay, it cannot be the same shape forever or permanently. Okay, it can be changed from one shape to the another shape, for example, from one layer to the from many layers to the one layers. Okay, so that's why it called as the transitional epithelium. So that's why the description here, it says they resembles both for the stratified squamous and also stratified cuboidal. It can be squamous or it can be as the cuboidal. Okay, it just have a similar two types of the shapes cells, and then the function for the stretch readily to permit the distension, because it used to for the stretching. So it can be found at the ureters. Okay, this is the ureters, and then of course the bladder and some part of the urethra. So that's why the bladder, it can hold with a lot of urine volume, and then once we already urinated, So it will become as back to the normal size. So that's what you can use for the stretching.